Greetings, sports fans. We are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm Gino. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Kevin and Darren. Today is Wednesday, March 5th. This is episode 158. Please catch us wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram. Give us a like, give us a share. Join our pages. We want people to join our pages. We'd love to hear from you. Send us some comments, questions. We'll get back to you. Tonight, we're going around the world of sports, and then we're talking more college basketball because it's March. And the madness is almost upon us. Selection show is now only 11 days away. But we're going to start. We'll go around the sports world. Then we'll get to some college basketball. We'll start it off with some baseball. So a couple of things happened in baseball over the last week. Quintana signed with the Brewers. So he's not an option for the Mets any longer if they're trying to look for a starter. Yankees actually now couldn't offer Stroman the deal we talked about because they lost heel, lat strain, probably 6 weeks, and basically Stroman becomes, boom, the guy that they're going to slide right into that.
They say it could be up to 3 months with heel. We'll see what happens.
Could be 3 months. They said Stanton is definitely going to start the season on the IL with the elbows. And but on a good note for the Yankees, both the Martian and Spencer Jones have looked pretty good in spring so far, as well as an old Met favorite, Dom Smith, has looked pretty good hitting the ball. Hey, listen, with no Stanton, Kev, he could be a DH option for the Yankees in a heartbeat. So
he could be alongside the platoon there.
LeMahieu already banged up as well, by the way.
Yeah.
That was for you, Gino.
Houston announced that Altuve is going to left field. And the only other note I had was Sean Murphy, catcher for the Braves, going on the IL with a cracked rib. They had already not picked up Travis d'Arnaud in the offseason, so they'll be going with a rookie catcher unless they pick somebody up in the next, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the season starts. Any other baseball notes from you guys?
Just an interesting stat that popped up for me, and it's useless, but talk about consistency in baseball and the importance of it. Chris Davis. I don't know if you know this. 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. He had 247 every single year in those years. I thought that was a weird stat.
Is that Chris Davis with a K?
Oh, of course it is. Come on. We don't talk about the one with the C. He's still getting paid by Baltimore. He hasn't played in years. He's making Bobby Bonilla look like he makes no money because Chris Davis is still getting paid like $7 million. The Bobby's one and change.
The other Chris Davis is more like 147.
But he had like 2 really huge years that gave him a huge contract that gets him paid. The other thing was just a minor league baseball point. George Mason, 23-run inning, no homers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not easy to do.
I saw that. I actually saw the box score where they listed every play on how they scored the 23. That was a long list to read.
That was
unbelievable. That's kind of what I saw. Kev, were you about to say? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, pal.
Oh, that's okay. We also had Jose Iglesias to your team on a split contract.
Yeah, San Diego. This guy can't get a major league contract. Everywhere he goes, he hits.
I mean,
am I missing something?
I know last year was a little more of an outlier, but the guy's always been a consistent 270 type and with Gold Glove caliber defense.
Yeah,
this guy can't stick anywhere.
I don't get how the Mets couldn't offer this guy, especially because he was a heart and soul kind of guy. A minor league. Listen, Jose Iglesias is not the reason this team will do anything. This is going to be about Soto now and Nimmo and Pete and Lindor, of course, and all these great guys. But Iglesias was such a rallying cry for this whole team. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
to me anyway. I don't know.
And Sasaki had his debut. Very impressive.
Threw some heat.
He certainly did, and he got that split finger fastball he throws. He threw 18 of them.
Yep.
And had most of them were swings and misses.
Yeah. The Dodgers needed another player because they didn't have enough talent, and you were worried about if the Dodgers were going to fizzle out. Thank goodness for the Dodgers to get another star.
Given their pitching staff, they might need about 12 Sasakis to get through the season.
They do get hurt a lot, and let's remember Yamamoto did not pitch great last year until down the stretch. He started pitching much better. He didn't get off to a great start,
and he was also out a month and a half with an injury. So,
absolutely. So we'll see what happens with Sasaki.
How much he's going to come back to pitch. My only other note was I saw an article that noted that the Mets are shopping Starling Marte to Kansas City. I don't know if that's Hey, Kev, maybe they bring a
Yeah.
starting pitcher back that can help you at least for the short term until these guys come back and they're healthy.
Yeah.
Between Minaya and
Yeah.
who's the other pitcher?
Montas.
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 Yeah.
The great Frankie Montas. Come on.
Yeah.
If you're giving up Marte, you're picking up his entire salary basically to get anything decent, even in return. But the Mets, they lead the league again, 3 straight years, highest payroll.
Yeah.
Because the Dodgers, we have all that deferred money.
They have so much deferred, it doesn't count against this year's cap.
I know, it's unbelievable.
There should be some extra note that goes into that number when they start reporting it that the Mets have the highest payroll. They do because the Dodgers have like $400 million deferred for 12 years. I mean, if you're gonna report it, at least put some asterisks at the end.
Yeah,
it's true. It's 100% true.
All right. Any other baseball points before we move on? Okay.
Not really. Can't wait for the fantasy baseball drafts to get going. I'm excited.
Coming up.
I also got the second pick when I wasn't supposed to. So yes.
11 days for our league.
That's right.
Absolutely.
NFL points. So my team acquired Deebo Samuel from San Francisco for a 5th round pick. Washington winds up picking up the whole $17 million in salary. They had the second most cap space to start, so that's not a big deal for them picking up the whole salary. I'm ecstatic, as you guys know, about Deebo coming over and playing with Jaden Daniels. Give me another receiver to stick on the other side of McLaurin, so I'm very happy about that. Jets released Devontae Adams. Only 2 guys were franchise tagged, by the way. T. Higgins with Cincinnati and Kansas City tagged guard Trey Smith. Those are the only 2 guys that actually received the franchise tag this year. So
and they dealt Tooney today to the Bears.
Yep, that's where I was going next. So we had a couple of trades. That's the big one. Actually, the Bears picked up 2 offensive linemen, Tooney from Kansas City, and they also picked up Jonah Jackson from the Rams. So they've made 2 trades already. And my only other point was Philadelphia. Barkley 2-year contract extension. 2 years, $41 million, guaranteed $36 million. So they got all the money that Barkley got all the money that he's wanted, basically, between the contract he got this particular year and then this. So he is way ahead. Any other NFL points, guys?
Gee, I want your take on the Deebo trade.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Listen, if all they do is use him as a wide receiver and slot him on the opposite side of McLaurin, it's fantastic. Okay. But they're gonna use him in other cases. They're gonna line him up in the backfield. He'll get some carries here and there. I like them giving Daniels another bona fide weapon. And it's really good. Listen, after McLaurin, we really didn't have a lot of big receivers. This is another big receiver. Give me De'Ami Brown coming back and being a 3rd receiver now, and all of a sudden I'm feeling very happy about my wide receiving corps. So
as you should. The only problem with Deebo is the injuries. If he can stay healthy, that's the thing. And it's not because he's a fragile guy. It's because all he does is seek contact. Those South Carolina players, Kev, they just seek contact. Your quarterback, I was thinking about your team this year with the way your quarterback takes on contact. You've been it's almost like it's the most physical program in the country, or one of them now. Even though Deebo's way back and it's the prior group, still very most physical player in the league at that position by far.
Well, when you go 6'5", 250, you can certainly be physical.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they at least limit the physical running carries they give him to keep him as healthy as possible, because as an outside threat with McLaurin on the other side, he could do some damage. He could do some big time damage if that's how they're going to use him, but we'll see. But
and the running quarterback,
definitely a good addition. Definitely a good addition. Great. They have plenty of cap space, so that doesn't bother me, so
I would keep him out of the backfield, to be honest.
Listen, I hope they would, but you could tell me, I'm sure he's going to get some carries. Even if it's 2 a game, it's too many for me. But,
once or twice a game, maybe just as a something different look, that's fine. But you can't be having them lining up and getting 6, 7, 8 carries a game like he was, especially a couple years ago.
Well, the difference is with Washington now is that Robinson's already a very physical back. You don't need
Yep.
another physical back to do it. You need a speed back now to offset with Robinson. Eckler's getting old, so you got to go younger. You got to find somebody that can play that role more. I'm not saying that Debo and Robinson are the same exact player, but they're not dissimilar in the style of running. So having the same guy doing the same thing over and over again, that's old school football. We had two fullbacks lined up in the backfield. He just gave it to each of them, a Okoye and Barry Word type stuff. You don't need to do that stuff now.
Yep.
And Jaden's also going to get some of those carries. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But they have to limit those to an extent too before you can't risk his injury either.
I agree. Listen, I hope. I'm kind of hoping that a running back gets drafted somewhere when the draft happens to kind of help.
Third and fourth round pick is just fine. I mean, that's really where it is. I mean, the Jets got Brees in the second, but what's it called? The two kids from this year were both Braylon Allen was 4 and Davis was 5, right? So I mean, it's like
somewhere around there. Yep.
Yeah, and and you like those kids, so interesting stuff there.
All right. Any other NFL?
No.
All right. We'll shoot over to the NBA for a couple of points. So, Joel Embiid out for the year. Kyrie Irving also out for the year. I guess the Luka disaster keeps hitting the Mavs. It's insane.
Yeah,
they also raised ticket prices. By the way, that was nice of them.
Off the trade of Luka, then it's karma. You lose Kyrie for the injury, for the ACL, and then let's raise the ticket prices.
Yeah, Davis gets hurt, then Kyrie is out for the year, and they announced the ticket price hike. You got to love the Dallas Mavericks. But outside of that, I mean, the Knicks, again, just get right to them. They continue to struggle against the really good teams.
Yep.
I know Towns didn't play against the Warriors, so, that takes something away. But simple fact of the matter is that, again, you don't worry about it till May, so to speak. You hope that the team can gel and click by then. But, this team finds a way to beat every team they're supposed to beat. And every time they go up against a team that's pretty good, it's a battle. I mean, and sometimes it's not a battle. Sometimes you just get blown out.
Yeah. I mean, they're still, best way I can describe it, they're stuck in neutral. They're sitting there, the third place. You got to stay in third place. I don't see anybody coming up from behind. They've still got about a 4-game lead over Milwaukee in fourth. They're still 5 games back or so of the Celtics.
But not really. It's down to 3.
Is it down to 3?
Yeah, but I believe so. Unless I misread it.
Okay. But I mean,
it might be 3 in the loss column, but I think it's 3. I think it's 18 losses, 21 losses, but I might be wrong.
Boston last Friday, they go up 25-3 5 minutes into the games against Cleveland and wind up losing 123-116 at home.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous Cleveland team there. They've won 11 in a row. It seems like every time we turn around, they're on another long winning streak.
They are I mean, you don't again, it's hard for me to say, wow, I think Cleveland versus Oklahoma City is the finals. And yet it's hard to argue against those two teams right now the way they're playing. Oklahoma City's got a lead double digits. Cleveland's lead is almost double digits. It's like, what the heck?
The only thing is, even though they're not going to catch him, but boy, Doncic has really fit in well there with the Lakers, as everybody would have thought. They're up to second place. They've won 7 in a row.
Yeah, they're playing really well.
And listen, Denver and Golden State as well are the two teams, the 3 other teams. It seems like Houston and Memphis have fallen back, but Oklahoma City doesn't lose, so you don't really gain on them.
Yeah. And LeBron, the first player ever to 50,000 points combined.
You got to give him his props for it.
Is that a big thing for you guys? I mean, he's already the highest scoring guy. Is that a big thing?
It's a nice number for him. I mean, it just shows the longevity. I mean, he's always in the playoffs. Credit to him and his teams. They've made the finals, about half the years he's played? I think it's 10 out of 21.
I would say
he's 4. I think he's 4 and 6.
Sounds about right, Jeff.
So I mean, he's there half the time, and other times he's made pretty deep runs. So number of games are there, the longevity, the 20 years playing. Top
Okay.
5 in history. Still no Michael Jordan though.
Yeah, I
Well, that's the
mean,
whole thing. Comparing him to Jordan is just unfair to anybody. I know that the younger generation probably thinks he's superior, but at the same time, if you didn't watch Jordan play as an assassin, or even Kobe, who had that assassin role that
Yeah.
that LeBron just doesn't possess, and it's not a shot at him. He's just a really well-rounded superstar player, but it's
no,
It's also
not
the
the same.
difference, when you look at career longevity, you also look the fact that Michael had 3 years at UNC. LeBron didn't play college, of course. And Jordan, when he played, he was playing 81, 82 games a year. There's none of this load
Yeah.
management crap. There's no, we've got back to back. We're going to sit out the second game. Jordan
Yeah.
played those four games of 5 nights. Jordan played all 4.
And then the other thing to remember also is that the game was a little different. The 3 was not as prominent. So the amount of points scored was just a little different. Defense was a lot more physical. I mean, Jordan would get mugged by Reggie Miller, mugged by Starks, mugged by Derek Harper, or whoever was on him. And Drexler, it's a little bit more free-flowing. A, B, LeBron's just bigger. You can try to mug LeBron, but he's stronger than everybody else.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he still gets hit. I mean, but it's not the same type of physicality in the game. It's not the drive and dish. Jordan was a great shot maker with the contested 2. And the contested 2 no longer exists in the NBA unless the shot clock's down to 2. And even then, it's rare that it happens. You know what I mean? Even then, they're still trying to kick it out to somebody to take a long 3.
So the only reason I said that is because I thought it was a big deal that he passed Kareem when he passed Kareem. But now you're just padding the number basically. So whether you have, 49,000 or 50, it's a nice round number. Don't get me wrong.
Nice round number. That's what it is.
It doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't, do anything here or there. So, all right. Any other NBA before we move over?
No, I think we covered. Basically, we'll get much more into it as we get closer. The other team to watch in that East is Detroit's been playing really, really well.
Okay.
After years of being a bottom feeder, they finally, Cade Cunningham and crew have finally kind of put it together. And Ivy, and it's a good squad, and they have a shot at getting up to that 4 spot.
And on the other side, Phoenix can't get out of their way.
No, they really can't.
I mean, they trade the young guys to bring in Durant and Beal and surround them with Booker, and boy, this just hasn't worked out for them. They're below 500.
Now you see trade options for Durant being floated around. In the NBA, it's so hard to trade anybody because the contracts are so large and the cap, and you always need 17 teams to make anything fit. It's just ridiculous, but that's what they do.
I'm tired of Durant with his trade demands and everything else. He wanted out of OKC. He wanted out of, he got to the Nets. He wanted out of there. The only time he's won was when he joined, a real super team with the Warriors.
The funniest part is when they started together and you had Durant, Harden. All 3 of these guys can't stay anywhere.
No, they really can't.
It's like this was supposed to be the start of a nucleus of something special. And, Westbrook's on about 8 or 9 teams now. Harden's all over the place. Nobody wants James Harden, and Durant, who's maybe the purest scorer you'll ever see, or one of them anyway. It's hard to say it like that. He just wears out his welcome everywhere he goes to.
Yeah. He really has, yeah.
I mean, 3 guys all drafted by the same franchise, and now that franchise is flying, and these 3 guys are trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to the NHL. So Ovechkin now is 11 goals away from breaking Gretzky's goals record. And the Devils took a major hit when they lost Jack Hughes to an injury. He's now out for the year. That's their the leading point scorer for the season. Jack Hughes is done for the year. I think they're going to wind up being someone that may pull off a trade in the next day or two here. I could see that.
They're going to be buyers still. I still think that they think that they're in it.
Yeah, I agree. But I think now the importance of them acquiring somebody goes up a notch now that Jack Hughes is gone for the year. So,
You know who would fit in real well right there?
let's hear it. Anders Lee,
No, Brock Nelson.
Rock Nelson.
They need a center.
That's right.
They do
And,
need
and
a
really,
center.
we look at what's available. Brock might be the best center available right now at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And if Lou doesn't go out there, I mean, the Kraken made the trade. They got 2 firsts. You get Minnesota is one rumor because he's from Minnesota. They could use another forward. The Devils now with Hughes' injury could be in a little desperation mode.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
Lou,
would agree with
come
that.
on, Lou. And I hate to lose Brock,
Yeah, but
it's time.
Well, that's the whole thing. The Islanders,
said it
every
for
time it
years
looks
now.
like they're done, Kev, then they go and
I
beat
know
Winnipeg.
they beat Winnipeg.
And then they go beat Winnipeg. And now they're going to go on a West Coast trip. And they're gonna, they got to play LA and if they win a couple, all of a sudden there's the false hope again. And
after they were embarrassed by the Rangers the other night.
Yeah.
See, the funny thing is, rooting for the Flames is not nearly as dissimilar as rooting for the Islanders, because the Flames are only in a playoff spot right now because the goaltender has been unbelievable in 5-on-5. Wolf has been great. The talent on this team is weak. You have to, even though they're in a playoff spot right now, if I'm the Flames, I'm trading. I don't care. I got to build around. Otherwise, I'm going to be a mid-level team. I'm never going to get good. Nobody wants to come to this organization. It's not like the Islanders are that bad, like the Flames, where nobody wants to go. But the Flames, nobody wants to go. So you have to sit there and if you can get someone to take Kadri off your hands, you do it. And if you can get someone to take, I don't think anybody's taking Huberdeau's contract, but if you could get a couple of those guys gone, you do it. And the Islanders have to do the same thing. Even guys like Nelson, who you love, and guys like Anders Lee, who plays hard and gives you everything. And you know what? You just have to. Sorokin, you build around, and you try to keep the young defensemen in there. But Pelech can go, and Pulak can go, and you keep the young guys, and you say to yourself, why didn't we keep Taves? But you move on. I'm just kidding. But they had so many guys. But I don't know how the Islanders. You don't want to get stuck in purgatory forever. And that's what happens to these guys.
I mean, it's basically the same core as you had when they made the runs in the COVID bubble and the year after. And it's 4 years later, and these guys are 4 years older. And I know I'm a broken record. I said this for the last month on the podcast. I was saying this last year on the podcast. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over again.
It's time.
So shut up. So shut up.
All right.
The Rangers, on the other hand, are starting to play well. And they're up 2-1 on Washington in the third. Last I checked, I don't know if they'll hold on, but they have a lead against the best team in the East right now. So if they can hold on to that, it'll be pretty big. It's just they're starting to put it together a little bit. So right now they would have the 8th spot in the East based on a 1 extra win, and they have the same amount of games played as Detroit. They just have 1 more regulation win. So it's still a battle in the East. But Florida, Tampa playing great again. Tampa finally had like a 9-game winning streak snapped, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the Rangers, if they win tonight, that'll be 5 out of 6.
Yep.
All right, Darren.
Yeah.
Move over to horse racing.
Okay, so here's the thing. So last week I gave you 3, all right? We had the Fountain of Youth. I gave you the top 2, but as Harvey Pack would tell you, in inverted order. I gave you River Thames over Sovereignty, but Sovereignty caught him in the stretch. You know what? It paid well. The longest shot ended up winning that race. But the Fountain of Youth, I gave you the top 2.
What are the exact pay there, Darren?
The exact, I think, paid 57, I think it was. It was a nice pay. It was a nice pay because, I had the right 2 horses, just didn't have them together. The Gotham, on the other hand, I gave you 2nd and 3rd. Blood Zone beat me handily, by the way. The Goramond, who I liked as a long shot, not a long shot, but it only ran one other race, finished 3rd. And San Devil, who I thought would win it, finished 2nd. So he had nothing. The other one, the Kev Special, the San Felipe. It was a 6-horse field. 3 were Baffert. Gave it a 3 on top. One of the other non-Baffert horses scratched, so I'm thinking Barnes is going to win this one easily. But journalism freaking caught him and blew by Barnes, who's the even money favorite in this one. So again, I gave you the exact and the triple, but I had the top 2 on had the top 2 reversed. Again, betting, I hit 2 out of the 3 races. I would have cashed. in both of those races because I would have had it covered both ways. I did not bet, but the Gotham I would have missed.
All right.
This week, Tampa Bay Derby. Okay, only major prep race of the week. Field of 7. You know what? I'm going to play the Yonkers special, Kev. I'm going to go with the 1-2. I'm going to go with Owen Almighty and Chancer McPatrick. Nice little Irish horse for you. Chancer was the favorite going into the juvenile last year and finished a well-beaten 6. Has not run yet this year. Owen Almighty's run twice, both at Tampa. Got disqualified in the first one, even though he won it, but he did hit the horse, so he deserved to come down and won the second one. So he actually could be 2 for 2. He won the Pasco Stakes in that with that one race. He's got Irad Ortiz who stays on him. So I'm going to go with the inside 1-2. A couple of good horses in this race. Patch Adams might go off as the favorite. He was a favorite running last year and early this year. He just has not run very well. Hill Road also another good horse to watch. But I'm going to take the 1-2 this week in Tampa at the Tampa Downs. And that's it for the horse racing, my friends.
All right. And you also had a boxing point you want to bring up?
Okay. One of the more controversial decisions you'll ever see. We had the Davis Roach fight this weekend. I think it was the 9th round. Roach has Davis hurt. Davis takes a knee. They do not call it a knockdown.
Ridiculous.
Fight ends in a draw. Would have went to Roach. But instead, Davis retains the title. And Davis claimed that it was because the gel in his hair was leaking into his eyes and he couldn't see. I've never seen a guy take a knee and not have it count against him for a point. Now, I mean, everybody thought Davis would.
Especially when he was hit.
He was hit.
I mean, he was hurt.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I mean, Roach is a real good fighter, but I think everybody was going with the tank. Everybody thought that Davis was going to win it. And Roach should have won this fight. I mean, you can't even necessarily kill the judges on this. You really have to kill the referee who doesn't take the point. It just made no sense. How do you not count that as a knockdown? He took a knee. You can't say that, sweat poured in my eyes? We've never seen that before. Blood poured in my eyes? We've never seen that before. We've seen blood pour into people's eyes.
Come on. We're sweating like squeezed pigs out here. It's hard to see.
Yeah, cut me, Mick. I mean, you got Gotti where they're sitting there trying to cut him up so he can see. Both eyes are closed. This guy takes a knee because he says the gel in his hair was leaking in or whatever it was in his hair. I mean, listen, I love boxing. I always will. It's a harder sport to follow now than it's ever been. When we were younger, we had the Tyson years, and you had there was no UFC, but you also had the Tyson years where you had a heavyweight fighter you wanted to see, and we saw Leonard and Hearns and Hagler and all these great fighters fighting each other. And now when you finally get a good fight, a guy takes a knee and they don't call it a knockdown. I don't understand. So yes, these guys will fight again, but Roach got screwed.
Yeah, crazy time with that.
Absolutely.
All right, it is time to move over to March Madness. Let's move over to college basketball. Darren, let's start it up. I would suggest, as always, let's leave the SEC for last. However you want to start.
Let's do it. Okay, we're gonna go with the major conferences to see who we have. And then we're going to go over the bubble teams, and we'll look at the resumes a little bit tonight. Why not do that a little bit?
Sounds good.
Might be the best way for us to go. So let's start it off in the beautiful, lovely ACC. Okay? So with the ACC, how many teams do you guys have?
I'm up to 5.
I am currently down to 4.
I am at 4 also. So you have SMU in there, Kev?
I do.
Okay, we all have Duke, Clemson, Louisville.
Yep. I have North Carolina as my last team in.
And that's what I have. I have North Carolina as my 4th now. I took Wake out. Wake has had some horrible losses. I've pushed them out. I think they are still the best bubble team for them. SMU, I've completely taken out now. They're off the bubble and out. They're outside the last 4 out rather. So Kev,
SMU or Wake?
No, I have Wake on the bubble. I have SMU completely off the bubble right now.
Wow, I've got Wake totally out, and I've got SMU obviously in. Uh, UNC, SMU definitely in the I'll say last 5 in. UNC I had out for a long time, and you take a look, and when you compare them to the rest of the bubble teams, we'll get to them a little bit later. They've won 6 in a row.
Yeah.
They're one of the few teams that are actually winning. They haven't played
Anybody.
It's been the real weak part of the conference.
Yep.
I'll grant you that. Saturday against Duke at home is unbelievably huge. If
That's
they
their
get a win
season.
there, they're in.
Yeah.
Barring the first round upset or with their first game in the ACC tournament. But a win at home against Duke, they are in.
I would agree with that.
A close loss and a good run into the semis of the ACC tournament, I still think gets them in.
1-10 against the quad 1 teams. It's hard to miss it.
Which means they don't have a bad loss.
No,
Basically,
I'll grant you that, but they don't have a good win either.
1-10 is real hard to overlook. Yes.
Lost to Wake. I'm just saying a team that I have out too. I have SMU and Wake both not in the next, not in the first 4 out. I have them in the next 4 out. 8-10, just to touch on it. VCU loses in the final, or gets to the final, gets to 28-6. Do they have it at large? They have a net of 29, 1-1 against the quad one, a quad 1, 6-3 against quad 2. Best wins are really Colorado State and at BC and Miami, so it's nothing great. Bad losses though to Hall. And
that Hall loss is really sticking in your craw there. But
and at St. Louis, at St. Bonnie's, at New Mexico, these are the bad losses for the Commonwealth.
But they're another team that, assuming they make it to the finals, that's another 2 or 3 wins. That would be 12 wins in a row. Either
Absolutely.
11 or 12 by the time you get there. And with that net ranking, I think they still have a real good shot of getting in there.
Jay?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a one bid league.
Okay. I have them really close. I think that they would have a real shot, depending on, it's going to depend on how teams play in the tournament. Yep. If all the SEC bubble teams get knocked out in the first round that they're playing, or the first major round, it could lead to something. The Big 12, first and foremost, Houston, are they a 1 seed now in your eyes?
Yes.
Oh, I think so.
Me too. Okay. So Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas. We feel safe with all those.
Yep.
Even though Kansas is playing about as crappy as you can right now for Kansas.
That's 6, correct?
That's 6. So now we have Baylor, West Virginia. Cincinnati lost tonight to Kansas State, so you take them out. TCU lost last night at home to Baylor. I think you take them out. So you guys have Baylor and West Virginia in or not?
Yeah, I think I have Baylor in pretty safely. Outside, they're that next layer above the first 4 games. Whatever that seed turns out to be, the 10th seed or thereabouts. I don't have them in the first 4 games.
I have all 8 of those teams in. West Virginia and Baylor, I think, are my last group in. My last 6-7 teams in, but I have both of them in. And I have a couple of other teams that are below them to get in. So for me, I think West Virginia and Baylor are pretty much in right now.
Yep. Well, my whole thing with Baylor, again, 17-12, 10-9. So now they have to win their final game. Otherwise, they're going to have 13 losses. And if they happen to lose in the first round, it's 14. It could be a 17-14 squad, and then you have to think about them. I'm not saying they're out. I'm saying you got to think about them. Best wins, they beat Gonzaga. They beat the Johnnies. They beat Kansas, beat West Virginia. I'm sorry, they beat Arkansas. They lost to Gonzaga. They lost to Tennessee, UConn. But losses at Colorado and Cincinnati don't look great right now. That would be the ones that stand out at you.
I think the one thing that when you start really looking at it, the last 8 teams that are in and the first 4-6 teams that are out, they're all going to have very similar records.
Yep.
That you're going to have to find a different differentiator to break some of these ties, because Baylor's 18-12. I mean, they get a couple of wins.
3-9 on the road, 2-1 in neutral sites.
Cincinnati
To me, that's
lost.
not impressive, by the way. To me,
Cincinnati,
that's a negative.
listen, Cincinnati lost today, and they're at 17-13.
Yeah,
So
they're
if you're
done.
looking at the total record, there's only one game difference. All of these records, all these conference records for all these Big 12 teams are close. And I think, something you said the other day, I think you got to look at some of these teams with your eyes and not just with the records. But for me right now, I have 8. Darren, you have 8?
I have 8, but
And
just
Kev,
to talk
you have
about West
8,
Virginia
right?
for a second, guys. Losses at Pitt, lost to Louisville, lost to Arizona State, lost at Kansas State, lost at TCU, and lost at Baylor. So they're 4-7 on the road, 2-1 in neutral, 6-10 in quad 1, 4-2 in quad 2. They're 18-12, 9-10 in conference, net of 48.
They're all.
And I have them
12
safely in. I have them last 4 buys. But
I have them last 4 in.
okay.
But to me, I looked at it 6 quad 1 wins, all 12 losses are quad 1, quad 2. And when I was matching them up against Cincy, especially, West Virginia swept Cincy. And
They did.
I was looking at the two of them before Cincy lost today. That's why I had West Virginia in over Cincy.
Makes sense. So we all have 8. Nobody has a 9th team, correct?
Correct.
Big East. St. John's, Creighton, Marquette, and UConn are in. Villanova crapped the bed last night against Georgetown. Twice they did that. That's because Kyle Neptune's the worst coach in college basketball. So Xavier, in or out, boys?
Out.
They won tonight against Butler, which they had to do, but it's not doesn't help them, but at the same point in time, it doesn't hurt them.
Yep.
I have them in, and at the moment, they are my 68th team in.
They are my 67th team in. North Carolina being my 68th. Their net is 49. Their quad 1 record, same as North Carolina, just a little better. 1-9.
1-9, yes.
6-1 against the quad 2, 4-7 on the road, 1-1 neutral. Best wins really though: Wake, South Carolina, Villanova, UConn. They did beat Creighton and Marquette as well. Lost to Nova, lost to St. John's twice, lost to TCU, lost to Michigan, and lost at Cincinnati. So, I mean, listen, it hasn't been an unbelievable road, but 19-10, 12-7, 20-10, I should say, 12-7 right now. So 2 of us have them in, 1 out. Okay.
They're in the first 4 out.
Any other team in the Big East you even have in consideration?
No, and I think Nova has played themselves out now.
Me too. If they would have won last night, I would have had them in my last 8 with a chance, but they did not.
The loss to Georgetown, and that gives them 3 quad 3 or quad 4 losses.
2 to Georgetown, 1 to Columbia,
yeah,
and 1 to Virginia. So 4 bad losses. It offsets the good win. So now let's go to the Big Ten. So Michigan State, Michigan, Maryland, Purdue, Wisconsin, UCLA, Oregon, Illinois. 8 safe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now we get to Indiana, Ohio State, Nebraska. I have Nebraska out after the loss last night, but Indiana, Ohio State. How many of you guys have? 9, 10, 8? What do you guys got?
I've got 9.
And who is your 9th, Kev?
By the slimmest of margins, Ohio State over Indiana, but that can change Saturday night.
They play each other.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
And Indiana won the first one at
Ohio State.
And I have 9, and I have Indiana in.
Yep, I certainly can see that. I mean, no arguing there. You're splitting hairs, I think, with those 2.
Yeah.
And I have 9 with Indiana in as well, by the way. I'm the same as Gino with this. The net is loving Ohio State. The net does not love Indiana, 36 versus 55. Quad 1, Ohio State better, 6-10 against 4-12.
Yep.
Quad 2, Indiana better, 4-0 against 3-3.
Do all 3 of us agree that Nebraska is now off the bubble? I think they're out now, right?
See, the thing with Nebraska, unfortunately, is that they already have the 13 losses. They're going to lose at least. They'll lose the conference game, and they're not a lock to win on Sunday. So, listen, right now Nebraska is fighting to make sure that they're playing in the Big 12 tournament, a Big 10 tournament. I mean, as only the top 15, and they're in a tie with Northwestern, Rutgers,
Okay.
half game ahead of Iowa, that kind of stuff.
Because I now have them off the bubble. I don't even have them as a bubble out. I have them off the bubble completely right now. I think the only team for me it's that Indiana, Ohio State, and I think one of them winds up getting that ninth seed, that ninth, team in. But we'll see, I guess.
Indiana wins this week. Do you switch it, Kev?
Yes.
Ohio State wins. Do you switch it, Gino?
Yeah, I think it's that close. I agree with Kev when he said it, a minute ago. I agree. I think they're that close that, and then again, we could switch it. Either one of us could switch that, so we could both have Ohio State, and then the Big Ten tournament comes, and one of those teams wins two, and the other one doesn't, and we wind up switching it back. But I'm on the same wavelength as Kev. I think it's that close between those two.
Okay,
one of those two teams will be playing in Dayton.
I agree.
Tuesday or Wednesday night.
I feel very confident in that as well. Okay, so we get to the Big West only for a second, just because UC San Diego net of 35, 11-2 on the road. They do have the win at Utah State. Their 4 losses, only one's good. At San Diego State, they lost to Seattle. They lost to Irvine, who's their rival in the league, and they lost at Riverside. With a net of 35, 26-4, if they get to 29-5, lose that final, do they have a shot at it at large?
Especially if the losses to Irvine, yes.
Okay.
No.
I have a hard time giving them that nod too, but I'd like to see them have a shot.
Really be a fresh look at them versus these 68th teams in.
The win at Utah State's a nice win. It was on the road too, but it's going to be close. It depends on how these big conference teams do.
You start looking, and they've got Long Beach State and UC Davis, which they have to win, period.
Yep.
If they lose either one of those, forget at large. That gets them to 28-4. And they make the run to the finals, you're looking at 30-5.
30-win team not getting in would be
with the net in the 30s.
This would remind Kevin of one Manhattan Jasper team where Dickie V said that they should have made it. Then they go and they take care of Nahara and Anchis and that Oklahoma team in the 13-4 matchup.
Yes, they did.
I figured I'd make you smile. Okay, Mountain West boys. So, New Mexico, Utah State, San Diego State. Is that the 3 that we say the safest are?
No.
So you have New Mexico, Utah State, Boise State safer?
Yes. New Mexico State, Utah State to me are the notch above. I think those two are really safe. Boise is in my last group in. San Diego State, first group out.
I have San Diego State in, but here's the thing. Colorado State's the most interesting team here. They're second in the conference. They're 15-4, 21-9. But when you break them down, they lost to Ole Miss, lost at Colorado, lost to Riverside, who seems to get everybody, lost to VCU also. Their best wins were TCU, Boise State, San Diego State, Utah State. Do they have any shot at getting in? What do they have to do to get in? Do they have to make it to the final? Do they have to win it?
Me personally, I think they have to win it.
Gino,
I don't think getting to the final is enough.
Gino, do they have to win it all, in your opinion?
I'm not sure they have to win it all. I think they have to get to the finals. So I have all 4 of the others in. I have New Mexico, Utah State, Boise State, San Diego State all in already. Colorado State would have to get there, and then a couple of these bubble teams that we have in right now would have to have some poor performances, I think, for them to get in. But I think I think they would make it really close.
Colorado State, Boise State is huge this weekend.
It is.
It certainly is.
So I think it's huge for Colorado State. I don't know if it's it's big.
It's not
for
huge,
Boise,
but it's big.
I don't think that switch it. I have 4 of them in. I don't think if Colorado State wins, I switch them.
Does it knock Boise State out though? Possibly.
No, at this point, I don't think so.
Boise State's one of my last 4 in also. Here's the thing about San Diego State, why I have them in a little bit more securely than you don't even have them in. They beat Houston. That one win gives me a lot of credence. They did beat Houston. That's a great win. That's the best bubble win of any team I've seen, by the way. I don't even think it's that close.
Yep.
They beat Houston.
So, Kev, you have 3 in right now?
I have 3 in right now. Yep.
I have 4, but Boise's in my last 4.
Okay.
And Gino, you have 4 also. Okay.
I do have 4, yeah.
Colorado State, I think, can, if they win this week, if they got to the final, I think they'd be in.
Okay. I think it would be close.
It's going to be tight because they don't have a lot of good conference, non-conference wins, and they lost straight up to VCU. But if VCU wins, that only helps them.
I mean, putting the SEC groups aside for a sec, my outside looking in is Ohio State, right on that cusp, 67, 68, 69, 70. It's North Carolina and Xavier and Ohio State. So could Colorado State join that group? Yeah, they could. They definitely could. I don't think any one of those is, secure to be in right now. So I think it's close.
Okay, so let's go to the West Coast. I think we're just down to 2. I think Santa Clara and San Francisco didn't do enough.
I agree. I think they're both in now. I don't think there's any bubbles left for them.
I agree with you. I'm going to bring up one other conference just because if Memphis doesn't make it to the final or doesn't make it to the final, I know if they get to the final, they're in. If they get knocked off in the semifinal, are they a lock? Not a great. Now, this is a team without a great net, but I want you to know who they beat this year because it's not bad. They beat Michigan State. They beat Clemson. They beat Missouri. They beat Ole Miss, and they beat UConn.
Yeah.
They lost to Auburn. They lost to Mississippi State, but they lost at Temple, lost at Wichita State, and they lost at home to Arkansas State. So they have a couple of those losses aren't great, but the wins are outstanding.
6-1 quad 1. If you throw in the 5-2 against quad 2, that's 11-3 against quads 1 and 2, despite a net of only 47. Obviously they have to beat USF Friday. That would be a terrible loss if they lost to them.
I think that they're in regardless, as long as they don't have a horrible loss to like an 8 seed. I think they have enough good wins, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel.
I think they're in.
Okay.
I think that is the one team out of all the one big conferences that is like a bid stealer if they don't win their tournament. They're in to me.
Any shot for North Texas if they get to the final and lose to Memphis? Net of 58, 0-3 in quad 1, 4-2 in quad 2, 7-4 on the road, 1-1 neutral. Best wins are at Minnesota and Oregon State. They don't have any really good wins.
Yeah, net 57. For me, the only way in is if they win the tournament.
You know what's funny about this team, though? Their losses, take out UAB and UTSA, which are not good. UAB is actually a fine loss, actually. UTSA is a bad loss. Losses to High Point, who's going to probably get in. Lost to Utah State, who's going to get in. Lost to Memphis on the road. Lost to McNeese, who's going to get in. So they really haven't lost to any teams outside of UTSA that's not going to make the tournament most likely. And UAB, I'm sorry. But UAB has really come on. So they're actually a pretty solid team. They gave Memphis trouble the other day. But, yeah, I can't see him getting in. I don't think the net's good enough, and they don't have any good wins. They just don't have only have one horrible loss, in my opinion.
Okay.
All right, and now we go to the big dog. the conference that determines everything, Kev.
Yes, they do.
So here we are. Auburn in. Florida beats Alabama tonight, trying to fight for that 1 seed. Alabama in, though. Tennessee in. They're fighting with Ole Miss right now. Missouri trying to come back against Oklahoma. They're in. A&M gets an Auburn win last night. They were in anyway. Ole Miss is in. Kentucky's in. Mississippi State, despite the loss last night, I still think is in. Vanderbilt, I still think is in. And then we get to these last 4 teams. Georgia, who's won 3. What?
Wait, do we all agree that those 10 are in?
Yes.
I think they're all locks right
now. I agree. I think we're all in agreement. We all think those 10 are locks. Okay, go ahead.
So now we get to Georgia, who's won 3 in a row and suddenly is 7-10 in conference. We get to Arkansas, who's 7-10 in conference, despite getting blown out of Carolina. We get Texas, who's 6-11 in conference, but had a nice road win last night against Mississippi State. And you got Oklahoma, who's fighting for their lives, 4-12 in conference. But they have a shot against Missouri tonight. So out of these last four, how deep do we go in the SEC? We'll start with Kevin because this is his conference.
I have Oklahoma out.
Okay.
To me, they got the win. They've lost 7 out of 8.
Yeah.
They've lost the last 2, Kentucky and Ole Miss. 4-10 against Quad 1. 8-11 against Quad 1 and 2. They've got at Texas on Saturday, which boy, talk about Red River rivalry there.
That's it.
That is an ultimate lose or leave town matchup.
1-7 on the road, by the way. Wins against Arizona, Louisville, Michigan, and Mississippi State would be their best 4 wins. They're not bad. They're all good wins.
Yep.
Bad loss would be LSU, and then they lost to Texas, and they lost at Georgia as well.
All right, so here's the only thing. If they win tonight, and they're up 12 right now on Missouri, so if they win tonight, they're going to be 6-10 in Quad 1, and then the other 3 teams, Arkansas is 5-9 in Quad 1, Texas is 5-9 in Quad 1, and Georgia's 5-11 in Quad. So they're all going to be right there.
5-12 in conference though stands out.
That's it, and that's the one that I think differentiates them, Kev, from the other 3 at the moment.
Yep, which is why I have them out.
Yeah, listen, I have them out too, but Texas has 6, Georgia's got 7, Arkansas's got 7, and if they win this game, they'll have 5. They're still behind the pack, basically, those 3.
I mean, Oklahoma's the only one of these 4 teams that has a loss outside Quad 1 and 2.
Agreed.
They won undefeated in non-conference. They and every game in this league is Quad 1, Quad 2.
Yeah, 13-0. They started off the season outside the conference, and they've really struggled.
I can't give a 6-12 team, a team that wins 1/3 of their conference games, a bid. The best they can do is 6-12. They will have to do some severe damage in the SEC tournament for me to put them in. Be perfectly honest, they're gonna have to get maybe to a semifinal to get there.
To me, for this Saturday, just speaking about this Saturday, the Texas-Oklahoma matchup. To me, if Texas wins, that knocks out Oklahoma. They're
completely.
Oklahoma beats Texas, I think Texas is done, but that doesn't mean Oklahoma's in. Because again, you'd say they're only 6-12 in the conference, and they would still need a pretty deep run in the SEC tournament.
That's a great point. I completely agree with you, Kev. That's spot on, exact.
I don't have either in right now.
I have Texas in.
I don't have Texas in, so I don't have them. Gino?
I do not have Texas in. I only have 12.
I have 12 also. I have Texas out. Texas has to win the game on Saturday. Joey Bosa just got released by the Chargers, by the way. Sorry about that. Just popped up on my phone. I think that Texas has to win that game and probably win 1 game in the SEC tournament to get in my opinion.
To me, looking at the other 2, Arkansas, the win at Vandy made up for the loss at South Carolina.
It did. And also the thing with Arkansas that stands out is they swept Kentucky. I mean, that's pretty good. Yep. They also beat Michigan. They swept Texas. I'm sorry, they beat Kentucky once at Kentucky. I'm sorry, they swept Texas, and they beat Missouri. So they have a lot better wins.
Yep.
Georgia not really, but they beat St. John's. They beat Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, their wins aren't at the top level.
But down the stretch here, they've beaten Florida. They won at Texas. They won at South Carolina.
I mean, you can sit there and make the South Carolina win as exciting as you want.
They avoided the bad loss to South Carolina. That
Very
was
true.
At that point, they avoided the bad loss, which some of these other teams have had. That win at Texas was huge for the bubble implications. That puts them squarely above Texas.
Yeah, I don't even have Arkansas's last 4 in. I have Arkansas kind of safely in the field right now. I have Georgia as my other last 4 in team. They're my 65th team. I do not have Texas is like my first team out, though. But I don't have them in, and I have Oklahoma as like maybe team 72. Somewhere in that range.
Texas is right around 68 for me.
All right. So here's a point. Let me just make a point here. So
Yes.
I have Oklahoma out right now. I don't have them as the bubble out right now. I have Texas as my bubble out. Okay. They're right on the cusp. But for Texas to advance in the SEC tournament, they're going to be playing one of these bottom teams in round one. So, between, I don't know, Georgia, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, right? They're going to be competing with each other in that first round. I mean, any one of those teams, I think, could wind up in. Now, the question, for me is, am I going to go from 12 to 13 teams? And the way I was looking at this as the conference tournament is going to start up, next week, I don't know if that's going to be enough to get a 13th team in right now. I know, Kev, you have 13 in.
It's going to be a lot easier for me to go from 13 to 12 than it will be for you to go from 12 to 13.
That's exactly correct.
I completely agree with that. Yes. And honestly, it's basically because a lot of these teams are going to be beating each other up now.
Well, here it is. The way it would work right now is Mississippi State would play South Carolina, okay? Vanderbilt would play LSU. I believe it's Arkansas would now play Oklahoma, and Texas would play Georgia.
And that,
so Texas win over Georgia, I don't think secures them. Georgia lost to Texas, and Texas wins another game. Now Georgia gets looked at. Arkansas loses to Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma wins another game, and Texas wins a second game. Then all of a sudden, you start looking at Arkansas. That's kind of what it's going to have to be. But that's the way it would look right now.
It
could change by Saturday.
But what Kevin said makes a lot of sense, because as we get into that first round and these teams play each other, I'm going to be looking at it like, well, okay, if I put this one in, this one's coming out because he just beat him. So, Kev, I think you're spot on with it. I think that's a great point. You're going to have a lot easier time going from 13 to 12 than I am going to 12 to 13. Yeah.
Yep.
And listen, I actually tried this time to put because listen, the exercise with that 13th team is, okay, if I put them in, who do I take out from my grouping? And for me, I told you my 68 team right now is Xavier. And, if you tell me you want to compare them and Oklahoma, their quad one wins are ridiculous because Oklahoma played all the teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
And then I look at Xavier before tonight, and, they're 1-9 against quad one.
Yeah.
So, it brings up a good point. And to me, that was my 68. So I was trying to slot Texas in and slot Xavier out, and I didn't. But the quad one is the one for me that got me, because I'm like, all right, they're 5-10 against a 1-9.
Just remember this, guys. Okay, Xavier is very flawed. North Carolina, very flawed.
Yeah.
Boise State is flawed. Okay,
oh, absolutely. They're all flawed.
Baylor is flawed. West Virginia is flawed. Arkansas. I mean, all of these teams are flawed. I mean, the committee could make a change on any one of these teams, and it wouldn't be shocking because you could find an angle against every single one of the teams. Yeah. Indiana, Ohio State, these teams are all flawed. They can come up with a team that we don't even consider. They might take what Kevin did. They might say SMU's got 22 wins. Maybe they finish with 23 or 24, and they say 24 wins ACC. They get the bid. I mean, they could, and I don't even really have them that close.
And I have them in.
They're 0-4 in quad with anybody.
And when you look at all of those teams, when you look at their record and their conference records, they're all going to be so close to one another. They're going to be 18 and 19 and 20 and 20. They're going to all be so close. As we get through this now, and next week, as we'll go into it, actually next Wednesday will be deep, right? Because you'll be right on the cusp of the selection. I don't know.
And the first rounds will be played in some of these conferences.
Yeah,
so
and
we'll
I
have
think
some of them. We won't have them all, but we'll have some of them.
Idea.
Yep. That's really when we'll get into this. So, all right. Well, we're all close. That's for sure.
Exactly. The Atlantic Sun first conference tournament Sunday. That'll be the first time. Was it Sunday night or Saturday night? Saturday night, is it?
Saturday night.
Saturday night. And Sunday's Arch Madness. Sunday's the Missouri Valley and 2 other leagues as well. So we're getting close to the teams getting named. So it's our favorite time of the year. We love college hoops. We love this tournament. We love fantasy baseball. We got a lot going on that gets the 3 Kings excited here. Any other points, guys?
All right.
On the men's, nope.
Nope. So go give us some women's, Kev.
Talk about
women's.
the women's.
Women's. I think we're down to 6 teams battling for the 4-1 seeds. Going into last week, LSU was ranked 7th. They lost twice to Alabama and Ole Miss. They're gone. The matchup of the weekend was USC-UCLA. USC wins again. Juju Watkins, another 30-point effort. They won by 13. They jumped up to 2 in the polls. Texas State at number 1. They were undefeated last week. UConn leapfrogs UCLA to 3rd. UCLA is 4th. South Carolina is 5th. Notre Dame, which lost last week and then lost again to Florida State, did beat Louisville. They are right now 6th. So basically, you're looking at 2 Big Ten teams in USC and UCLA, 2 SEC teams in Texas, South Carolina, and then UConn and Notre Dame battling for those 4-1 seeds. I think, especially if USC beats UCLA again, I think that guarantees USC a 1 and that guarantees UCLA a 2. I think if Texas and South Carolina both reach the finals, both of them will get a 1 seed. And then it really comes down to UConn and Notre Dame. And right now, the advantage is UConn.
Yeah, I would agree with you on it. I think that's the way it's going to break down. So,
one last college basketball point. Yesterday, 35th anniversary of the death of Hank Gathers.
Wow!
For those that, I mean, listen,
wow.
it was
Kimball.
Everybody remembers that run, the Glenn Westhead run with with all the guys just shooting threes. They had Peabody on that team. Obviously, Bo Kimball was the star. That Fryer shooting threes as well. He maybe shot the first free throw left-handed every single game just to honor his friend Hank Gathers. It was a start of getting defibrillators out on the court, making sure that gyms were prepared for what was going on. A superstar player who would have definitely played at the next level 35 years ago yesterday, Hank Gathers.
Wow.
Yep.
We're getting old.
What do you mean getting, Kev? We're old.
We are old.
None of us were watching the game live that night because I don't think it was on, but we all knew.
No, but we all remember that. Wow.
And back then, I could stay up late. If it was on, I probably would have watched it. But now I'm an old man. I go to sleep. So, any final points before we wrap up?
The madness is here.
And by the way, just a final mention, the name of our show is 40 Years in the Making. St. John's.
St. John's.
First Big East outright Big East title in 40 years. Congrats to the Red Storm or Redmen, however you want to refer to them. Rick Pitino brought out the white suit, which no other coach does, and you knew something good was going to happen. And let's be honest, he has turned a team that does not shoot the ball well at all into just a juggernaut. I saw a meme last night. It was somebody commenting saying about a woman's body is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. And the other person comments back, obviously you haven't seen St. John's play defense in the half court. So you get some people that get a little bit intense about it. And that's kind of where we sit. But yeah, that's that. We'll wrap up the show with that. Congrats to the Red Storm. Washington beat the Rangers, by the way, in overtime anyway. And Max Crosby signed a huge 3-year, $105 million deal that we forgot to mention in the NFL. We are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm sorry, Kev, what?
I was just going to say, did Ovechkin score?
I don't know. I just saw the final score across my phone in overtime. So it's a tough loss for the Rangers, and they got a point, but not enough.
Power play goal in the third.
Okay, so he did score. And
10 away.
10. We are in only 500 more games or whatever it is. We are the Sports Kings from Queens. I'm Darren here with Kevin, here with Gino, talking about the wonderful, wild, and wacky world of sports. A wacky world where Chris Davis hits the same exact average 4 years in a row. Please download the podcast anywhere you can get a podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple products, tune in, whatever you like. We're on YouTube. Like, share it, make comments, tell us you hate us, tell us you like us, tell us you love to see the ashes on Kev's head, which are very, very bright tonight. And share our Facebook post. And without any further ado, may your sports be with you.